beat your ball of death.
Yeah. 2, 3, 4. Tutorials Live.
Feeling a little classic rockish today.
So, we lied to the internet and we said Bradford was going to be with us.
Sorry, guys. Bradford is still in bed.
What?
Can you believe that?
Something like that.
Something like that. He was supposed to be here. So
he's not here.
He knows that he has personally let down the YouTubes.
He has. But that's fine. You know what?
That's right.
Because Fuller and I together make up for more than a Bradford.
To you plus me equals
if
almost
we
a
put
Brad.
our biceps together, it's almost as large as one of Bradford's.
Bradford's a beast, Bradford.
But there was a comment about Bradford being an awesome guitar player and that Fuller has never showcased his skills, which is not true.
It's not true. There's videos.
Because there are videos on the YouTube
That's right.
internet website YouTube channel.
The
Worst
YouTubes.
Tutorials YouTube channel. Fuller showing off his skills. So we thought we'd put them on display. Fuller is a killer guitar player.
Oh, thanks, Brian. You're just saying
the word killer meaning very, very good.
I've actually killed someone by accident by playing guitar.
You played it so well that their head just went.
I didn't realize they were that turn and boom, hit him in the head.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing out there? Got some good questions coming in. We saw you guys last week. Had a great time talking about some really cool stuff. Keep your questions coming in the comment section. And we're just going to talk about all things worship, music,
Guitar.
community, guitar,
Whatever.
how to finger tap.
I can't see too good. Is that Eddie Van Halen?
A little bit of Eddie. Hey, this is the... What guitar is this, Brian?
This is the Shelton.
Oh, the Shelton.
Shelton Electric Instruments SkyFlite 4.
Yeah.
I am going to do a review on this guitar.
Yeah.
And that guitar. They're both Shelton guitars. They are both... This guitar is... I equivocally think it's the best guitar I've ever played in my life. Now,
It's not... I mean, this is...
This behind me
amazing.
is a Sir Alt T. It's a strong contender, but
Yeah.
I think the
This is a guitar I played about a month ago at church.
You played that
Yeah,
at
this
church,
thing
yeah.
is amazing. The guitar I demoed in the other video was a Shelton, the Top Flight.
The Telly one, which was
The Time Flight.
Time
Flight that we
That thing
demoed
was
about 2
pretty
years ago, a
special,
year
yeah.
ago, and I wish we would have kept it because that guitar was
That guitar
sweet.
had some magic.
So
in it.
Shelton, if you're watching, bro, amazing job on the guitars. Sounds amazing.
We were playing a little ditty and oh hey, let me get
Shelton's
you
the
something
way to go, Jamie says.
here. You need this.
Oh, I need a guitar stand. Cool.
Yes.
Last week we were drinking some cold brew. Now I got a little La Croix.
Well, I'm about done with the cold brew. This is another Stoke. I think it's Stoke. It has a line over the O. S-T-O-K.
Oh, I thought it was stock, but you're right. Yeah,
But the line over the O means O.
It's a hard O. Yep.
Oh, Stoke.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Edward, Peter Paul, Tony Mosty from the West Coast?
Hey, Tony.
What's up, Tony? Good to see you, man. Leslie's here. Some other names I can't pronounce. Tumsu Jumba.
I'm going to see if I can get some comments here.
Said the reverb sounds huge. Is that Big Sky? What reverb is this, Brian?
Whoops, sorry. That was all Kemper.
That was all Kemper reverbs. Nice.
That was Kemper everything.
Sam's here. Jamie Hunton. Suba Patra. Do you have a lesson for finger?
I can see
finger tab. Comments. Not sure what finger tab is.
We don't do tabs on our at Worship Tutorials. Sorry, we've had a lot of requests for tabs for different things here and there.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Super time consuming to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not the way I learned to play guitar.
I actually learned on tab.
Did you?
I learned like all of Stairway to Heaven
with
from tablature
Guitar Player
before
magazine.
I knew how to read music at all. Tab is I can like sight read
Can you
tab.
play it still? Let's hear a little Stairway.
Stairway to Heaven. Oh my gosh.
There's
No,
not
stop.
a no Stairway policy here.
I haven't played that since I was last at Guitar Center.
All that glitters is gold, and she's mine.
Kyle says he said Kemper. # triggered.
Who's
Kyle,
triggered?
do you not like the Kemper?
That could be
right.
for any number of reasons.
That's
One,
awesome.
It could be because I am a tried and true Helix guy, and that I'm playing. The Kemper is awesome. So I played Kemper all last. You'll see it on the Sunday vlog, which I'll be uploading soon. I played Kemper, only the Kemper. I used the remote with the Kemper, so everything was from the effects, everything last week at church, and it was awesome. So
I used the Kemper and the Helix.
You use the HX
effects. I don't like the Kemper
I have
pedal
one.
board, so I like the Kemper modeling sounds.
The remote is a little limited.
But then the HX effects are killer for a front end of it. You get the HX effects and the Kemper together. Whew.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
I've used the Helix and the Kemper together.
Worship
with
Leader Tuesday.
The Helix in the Kemper, or the Kemper in the loop of the Helix. Pretty cool. Anyway, we had some questions. What were
Yeah,
they?
let's get to the questions. Hey, just a reminder, put your questions in the chat room. If you can start them with a Q question mark, that way we can kind of separate them from the normal conversations that are happening. Let's go to Kyle's first question. Kyle Jackson says, I know the Helix is what you recommend. Is that what you recommend, Brian?
I love the Helix.
Helix is great. But what about a series on building a budget pedal board with maybe those TC electronic pedals that are around $50 to $60 a piece? So they're talking about maybe building a smaller setup and not people can't invest in the Helix
who
or
don't want to go modeling,
the Kemper,
which is fine. So I always say, like, the stuff that you can buy today, these days, is so good. Whether you go modeling, amp versus pedals, you can build something that sounds great for not a whole lot of money. So Bradford and I actually had this idea. We were texting yesterday. And
Was this before he went to sleep?
This is before we went to sleep. Bradford said, hey, Fuller's got that bucket of pedals in the backstage.
I do have a bucket of pedals.
And so the Boxo pedals, we have no idea what's in there.
They've been distributed across many guitar players.
But Brad was like, why don't we make a video, like me and Brad, and you could be in on it with us too, but you're on sabbatical, so never mind.
Nice to play.
So Brad's like, why don't we go backstage and just make a video? Like, we don't even know what's in there. We're going to build a board out of the Boxo pedals.
You could build a pretty sweet board.
Yeah,
there's some
is
good
it
stuff.
budget stuff or is it?
Not all of it's budget. I mean, to me, any pedal is a budget unless it's like a boutique, like overpriced
Like a
$300 drive.
drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, who was it? Leslie was asking about the Boss multi-effects earlier.
The
Boss
ME
pedals
something,
are really good. Like
Boss pedals
just
are some of the
like the
best.
Blues Driver is a classic Boss pedal.
There's an RV5
Yeah,
6 back
the
there.
RV5 is a great reverb. The DDL5 I think is their delay pedal or something like that.
DD4,
There's-
DD20.
Yeah,
is
there's a
like
lot
classic,
of Boss
yeah.
makes good stuff. The trick with building a pedal board is just there's a lot of stuff. There's cable. There's like 10 cables. There's power supplies.
Yeah, you have to go power
You gotta get
to
an
the
amp,
room.
right? You can't just line that in. Like you can't just line pedals into the PA system. It'll sound terrible. So you gotta have an amp. So to me, by the time you get the amp, you get the pedals, you get the setup, you could have gotten a Helix.
Yeah, a Helix is actually a cheaper way to go for pedals.
Yeah, that's good. Here's a good question from John Henry. Says, what's your philosophy on mixing background vocals? How prevalent in the mix do you prefer? Do you think it's more
is a great
important
question.
for them to be heard or for them to be seen worshiping? Great question, John. I'd say there's two answers to this. There's a live answer and then there's a studio answer.
Let's do live.
So
about.
in a live situation, I mean, hey, if you got, my philosophy is this: if I'm mixing, I turn the background vocals up appropriately based on how great they sound.
Okay.
So if you've got two background vocalists that sound amazing, you turn them up,
They
right?
sound what?
Amazing. You turn them up. If you have background vocalists that are struggling, pitchy, turn them down.
Yeah.
But I think it is equally important to hear them as it is to see them worshiping, because it's an interactive experience. To me, seeing them worship is just as critical as hearing them. But music will always harmonies make music sound richer, fuller. So if you can't hear it, then they need to come up. And now, I don't like overpowering background vocals.
Right.
Now, it depends on the song, too. If you're doing like a gospel song, like Every Praise is to our God, I crank them all, dude. Unity, I treat them all like lead vocals.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're doing like maybe a Steve Fee song, you want it, if it's a pop song, you want to mix them lower, because they're just there to, you want to miss them if they're gone. Right? Like if you mute them, you want to miss them. But you don't want them to be overly powering, because it can kind of change the genre.
Not drawing attention to themselves.
Yeah, and so if you went and saw like a gospel type band doing an elevation song, and they mixed it like gospel, it would sound like gospel. Mm-hmm. If they mixed it like pop, it would sound more like pop. So it really does affect, background vocal levels really affects the genre.
Right.
You might be thinking you're doing a pop song.
That's a good point.
But with 8 vocalists turned up, it sounds like the Gaither vocal band now.
Yeah.
So it does affect the genre, so a lot would depend also on what style you're going for.
Yeah.
You know?
Good point.
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
Leslie says, hey, would you guys touch on what are the basic guitar skills one should know to play on a team?
Good question.
Excellent. I'll let you take this one. Like, specifically, he says, is it important to know the notes on the fretboard?
I don't know all the notes on the fretboard. So I hope that that's not...
We can't edit this, Brian.
I know. I hope that that's not a requirement. I know most of them. If you tell me to play A minor pentatonic scale, I mean, I can do that. But, okay, it depends on what you're playing. So if you're playing an acoustic guitar, if you're an acoustic guitar rhythm player, I would know all the chords in the key of G, the key of D, the key of C, the key of A, the key of E, and know how to use a capo.
Yeah.
And then your right hand rhythm needs to be strong. So I would know that. If you're going to play lead guitar, you need to know your scales, minor pentatonic, major scale. And you need to be able, one thing that if you're going to play lead guitar, you have to be able to do, I think, in a modern praise and worship context, is you have to be able to listen to a song and learn the lead line out of the song.
That's good.
Right? So, not like, and if you need to go to YouTube and watch a video to learn it, that's fine. But to be able to and most of them are based on the minor pentatonic scale. Most of them.
Yeah, you can get, if you just learn the minor pentatonic, but that's not necessarily even learning the notes, you're just learning a pattern.
You're just learning patterns.
So I think that
how they move around.
The real answer is, listen, every team has different standards, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get on the team at Lakewood in Houston, you probably need to know a lot of theory, and because but if you're in a small church that doesn't read music and you just kind of play by ear, you don't really need to know. Now, I would say for your own personal musical growth, everyone should be pushing to learn. Like, I know all the notes on a guitar fretboard, but I've also been playing guitar for almost 30 years. So you want to constantly grow, but I wouldn't say it's an entry level deal breaker.
And if you're playing electric guitar too, this is a big thing for me that I think is important. So you've got, like, if you're going to play a G chord, for example, you need to know the different voicings of that chord up the fretboard. So you can play a G here. So here's your G. These are different ways to play a G. There it is. Right, so you can play 4 or 5 different positions. Then when you get up here, it restarts. So if you can play, and you need to be able to do that in most every key. So
no, that's great.
Yeah, your key of G, you can play these voicings.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to know as much as possible.
Yeah.
But you kind of go
those
from
would
there.
be my standards, I would think.
We're getting some really, really great questions, guys. This is awesome.
My computer over here that we're running the stream from is kind of like
sketchy.
It's giving me some weird errors. So
guys, keep commenting if you lose audio.
We're gonna try.
Let us know if you're not getting audio. It seems like everybody's still dialed in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get on the Lakewood team. Jamie Huntington.
Then you need to know a lot.
Then you better rock it out. So those are great questions. Let's see here. Here's a great question. Matthew Willis says, we are wanting to create a producer position at our church that would be a big picture guy on Sunday, set up pro presenter and lights, etc. Up to this point, I've been doing everything. Give me that wisdom. Well, Matthew, You have been doing a lot, brother. And so the idea of bringing on...
Welcome to Live as a Worship Leader.
I know, we are, man. We do it all, right? The idea of bringing on somebody is really exciting.
Yeah, and we have these positions in most of our campuses.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's a growth thing. You know, your church gets to a certain size where it demands that the worship team kind of splits into production and worship. So kudos to you. I would say my advice is hire someone. Ready for this?
I'm gonna work on this computer.
Okay,
it's
Brian's checking out the computer.
I'm here. I'll be here.
My advice is hire somebody that has a great personality. You want somebody that's technically savvy. You want someone that can do those things, but you need somebody that's going to inspire your team because it really is a leadership position and it's highly influential. So you want to really get the cream of the crop. Just because someone's good at production stuff doesn't mean they necessarily will be a good team leader. So depending on how much you want to let go and micromanage, I would hire somebody who's highly administrative and who is really organized. Because they will be able to empower. The goal is not for them to do everything. The goal is for them to oversee it.
Yeah.
So you're going to want someone that can find volunteers, that can recruit people, and they can lead them. Because I would rather have a team of 10 people doing it than me overseeing it.
They probably need to be able to do it.
Well, they have to understand it. Yeah, I mean, that's a basic...
If there's a fire that starts, they need to come in and be able to put that fire
out,
right?
But don't let that be the only requirement. Because you will kick yourself.
It's for the same reason that as a worship leader, singing and playing and singing a song, performing a song is like low on the list of things that worship leaders should be able to do.
Yes.
For the same reason.
Yeah. That's good. Jake has a question. Jake Guptill, do you guys use Ableton for backing tracks? Do you control the cues from your Helix or does someone else control them? We actually use a program called Digital Performer.
Yeah. And we may be the only ones.
We might be. But Digital Performer is really well suited for live click tracks. Now here's the thing. Yeah. We actually... The worship leader does not control the click tracks.
No.
We it's
a difficult thing to give.
Like Matthew mentioned, his producer, our producer in the front. We actually have a service producer, and they're highly administrative, and they control the clicks. So they start and stop the clicks. All the cues come from the backing tracks. They're all pre-recorded, and so we use Digital Performer for that.
Can I speak into this for a
Please.
little bit? Most churches, I would assume most churches have someone in the band, someone on stage, if they use click tracks, letting us in control of them. Whether
Probably the worship leader.
Whether it's a worship leader on a foot pedal or something, or like a drummer or somebody is playing the click tracks. If and when you get to the point where you can trust somebody enough to give that over, that is going to free you in ways that you cannot imagine. And I would have never have thought that because I would have thought that would make me so scared that somebody else is going to screw that up, and that timing, like those transitions aren't going to work. But what happens is you don't have to think about that. And if you build trust and you get to a point where that relationship between you and whoever's doing it, you as a worship leader and whoever's doing the clicks, has to be at a point where they can read you. They know when it's time to push play. And when
it's scary,
and when things go off the rails, when it's time to stop it, But when you get there, man, it's a good thing. And so, at New Hope was the first time I ever relinquished control of that.
Yeah, it takes a little while, but tell you what, man, it's a good thing to do.
The first weekend was scary, but I would never want to go back to me being in control of the click
It's
track.
distracting. The last thing I want to do is worry about starting and stopping click tracks.
So here's the thing. Whenever you have to start the new. It's always in the middle of a transition, right? Like that's the transition, and transitions are so important. And how you as a worship leader lead in a transition is so important that you don't want to be focusing your attention on a technical detail like starting a click track.
That's good.
You want to be focused on leading your congregation in and out of a moment.
That's good.
So
that's
when
really
you can
good.
give up control of that to somebody else, do it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Another question here is, I have drums and guitar. So it's like the White Stripes, I guess, at their church.
Yes.
I have a Helix LT, but should I stay acoustic or go electric? So you're saying you have two people on your team, you and the drummer.
Totally. Do you want to sound like the White Stripes?
I know, it depends on what sound you're going for. What I would probably do in that situation is I would go acoustic.
Yeah.
I would have the drummer do cajon or percussion, maybe like a small trap kit, and then acoustic guitar. Because the moment you add guitar and drums, to me, you gotta have a bass player.
Yeah, now if you do have a bass player...
Totally different story, man. Three-piece power trio.
Yes. Learn some power chords
Yeah.
and go to town.
I would spend most of my time, honestly, trying to recruit more musicians.
Yeah.
Because to me, 2 is not enough consistently. I would want to start adding. Maybe one time a week, or one time a month, you add another musician. You know, until you kind of build your team up. That's a good question. Kai Wright says this: how much trouble? I like this question. How much trouble do you have with the Helix sounding too digital?
None trouble.
See, I had a little trouble in the studio.
It never ever sounds digital.
So live, you can't even tell, right? In the recording studio,
I was hoping you'd bring this question up.
I found the Helix to be slightly digital, so that's when I switched over to the Kemper.
You're a Kemper guy.
The Kemper, you can't even tell. Like,
Well,
there's no unless you drive the game.
It depends on the profile.
Yeah.
For what you have to have a great profile with the Kemper. Yeah, and if you turn the gain up on the Kemper,
It
is digital gain.
Yeah.
You want a profile of an amp that's set at a higher gain. But I think the Helix sounds perfectly real.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. When I'm in the recording studio making tracks, sometimes I'll use the Helix instead of the Kemper, just because they each have their own little flavors.
Yeah.
So they're both amazing.
I apologize. I keep looking over here. This computer over here is running the live stream software, and it is. We should have restarted that computer before we started. I think we're going to be. Every once in a while, it just jumps up to like the red light flashes. It says you're using 90% of your CPU.
No one is commenting on the quality of the stream, so I think
the stream is fine. I'm just worried that it's going to go away, like it's going to crash.
That's good.
That's the only thing.
What's your opinion on the pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks? I don't like it.
I enjoy it.
You do?
I like pumpkin spice.
I just don't like those flavors in my coffee.
I'm not like so.
I know it's a phenomenon.
When it comes to coffee, I like a lot of cream.
You do. Is your coffee over there?
It's gone.
It looked like milk.
It was beige.
Yeah, it was beige.
It was a light beige. It was like tan. The color. It was the color of the khaki pants that you see at the Southern Baptist Church down the road, right?
That's so good.
Or maybe that you go to.
Polly the Jesus Lover. I like it, Polly. How do you program pads in the Helix for use in a live setting? Do you use the pedal board?
Program pads?
We don't use pads through the Helix. We run pad. There's a lot of different ways to run pads.
Yeah, we don't use the Helix. So there's.
Could you put it in the looper?
There are a couple ways you can use the Helix for pads. One is you can use it as a MIDI controller to control Ableton, for example.
Yeah.
So if you have your pad, if you have pad loops, like what you can get at Worship Tutorials, like MP3 files that are pads, bass pads, you can use the Helix to control software that plays them. Mm-hmm. The other thing you can do with the Helix is the Helix has a 3-note generator built into it. So you can generate a chord in the Helix using a synth.
That sounds like a bad idea.
It's actually I've seen it done. I haven't played around with it much. I've seen people make it.
That seems like a train wreck ready to happen.
You can do a 3-note generator and run it into like a bunch of reverb and delay and make it sound more ambient.
But not while you're playing.
Well, you can.
I mean, not if you're playing other stuff.
You can, yeah.
You could. Do you like record it or loop it or?
No, you can just turn the generator on, and it goes, and then you can. But you have to pre-program the keys.
That's okay. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So it's pretty.
That sounds super complicated.
I would not do it.
I would not do that either.
You can't. What you cannot do is load an MP3 file into the Helix and play it. You can play it. You can play
record into it.
You can run a iPhone into it.
Yeah.
And then out of it. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the Helix to run pads personally. It'd be better just to get an iPhone.
We run them from a computer in the back.
Yeah,
on
or main stage.
Presenter.
Run them from keys. Like our church is struggling with traditional or contemporary styles. Lots of people are unhappy, and our attendance is very low. How can we get people together on this issue? That's from TCOB90. Our church is struggling with traditional or contemporary.
I'm gonna guess they're fighting between
which one they want to do.
And maybe they do a blended service.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our experience of blended services, what you get is nobody is happy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, TCOB90, I would say that's an issue that your pastor is going to have to lead charge on.
That's a prickly.
That's a big one.
Again.
That's going to take a lot of vision, because the reality is the worship leader needs to be carrying out the vision of the senior pastor. And so the senior pastor needs to have clear, concise vision. It has to
be very well communicated.
It has to be super well communicated. And if that's not happening...
To the congregation. Not to the worship leader. Well, to the worship leader too, but like to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing... This is the style of music that this church is going to do.
Yeah.
And this is why. And if you want a different style, we'll help you find a new church.
Yeah. It is a tough... It's just you can't truly... The people who just like hymns and piano, they're never going to like a Hillsong song, you know? And so it's just the reality. And so I think it's a really big question that your pastor and your church needs to ask in general. Who are we going to be?
Yeah.
And which is different than doing two services. Like, we have a contemporary service and we have a traditional service, and then you just go all the way on both. And that's usually like the common ground. If you're the worship leader there and you're struggling because you feel like you can't make anybody happy, it's kind of like what Francis Chan says.
Yeah.
I didn't really like worship today. Well, that's good. We're not here to worship you.
So let me ask you a question, Fuller. Have you ever been on staff at a church that did a traditional and a contemporary service? I haven't either.
I wouldn't honestly want to be. Because I just don't think
a lot of churches do it, but I can't imagine how that job would be so hard.
Yeah, well, I do know one church that does it well, but they have two worship leaders. One of them does the traditional, and one of them does the contemporary. Yeah. I personally feel like it's a losing battle to try to appease both groups of people. So what I would try to do as a solution is just meld everything together. I would never do like crazy EDM synth-driven stuff. And I probably wouldn't do pure traditional hymns.
So you're talking like a blended.
I would do
a different
like an acoustic type set. I would take an acoustic guitar, a percussion kit, keys, bass, maybe a couple vocalists, and I would try to craft my own genre that took all these hymns, took some of the newer songs, but made them into one genre.
Yeah.
So that on any Sunday there's a certain sound and a certain feel, and see what happens. Because if you do like Hillsong Young and Free, and then you do like a Gaither song together, stylistically, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Heart goes out to you. Jamie says, what is there to eat around you?
There's a pretty good burger place right down the road called
Town Hall.
Yeah. Brad and I go there often together on Fridays. There's all the usual suspects, like, all the chain restaurants. There's good barbecue around here. So Eastern North Carolina. Now, we're in Central North Carolina, but the barbecue that we have is Eastern North Carolina barbecue. Yeah. And so it's vinegar-based. I don't know how you like your barbecue, but Eastern North Carolina is vinegar-based. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Oklahoma, where it was Texas-style barbecue, which is going to be like tomato-based barbecue sauce, so I like that, but the barbecue around here is real good. Yeah. If you get it good. There's a place called The Pit.
Oh, The Pit is wonderful.
But you know what I found, though? There's people love to do it themselves here. And I have
make the food?
Make their, get into barbecue here. And there have been two people in our church that do barbecue. Like, one, I don't know, you know Carlton Dean? Carlton? I'm calling you out. I love Carlton. He makes the best barbecue. There's another guy that used to go to the Garner campus named Brian. And Brian had one of the chefs from The Pit lived next door to Brian. Oh. And Brian told me, he goes, my neighbor tells me my barbecue's better than theirs. And it's true, it was.
Dude,
Brian knows. Brian can throw down.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I've been, on Tuesdays, or Mondays, I've been making ribs, racks of rib in the oven for 3 hours. Boom. 325, 3 hours. Okay? My wife whipped up like a barbecue sauce, and she was like, I was outside finishing our deck, and she made these ribs. I'm telling you, those ribs were better than any ribs I've ever had in any restaurant.
Well, what you may not know about Fuller is a classically trained chef. He's a Juilliard trained chef.
Le Cordon Bleu.
What's that from? It's from Seinfeld. Why would I, a Juilliard trained doctor?
Juilliard trained doctor.
It's Kramer.
Brian's a Seinfeld fanatic.
Yeah, so Fuller went to Le Cordon Bleu, and Fuller can, if you ever have an opportunity to eat Brian Fuller's food.
Yeah, if you have any questions about food, put those in the comments.
People love to talk about food.
I love to talk about food.
You need to start a food channel on YouTube.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't have time.
Because, I know. You also need an extra 5 hours.
Yeah, but my wife killed these ribs yesterday. It was amazing.
Fuller's food is amazing.
Thank you, Brian. Helix
really
or
is.
stomp boxes. I go Helix.
Yes, whatever. Play what you like. Everything
so,
you can get great tone out of most anything that comes out these days.
Oh wow! David Flores says, "How do you bring click tracks and introduce them to the team?"
Slowly and carefully.
Yeah. So I've transitioned this myself twice, and I know a ton of other people who have done it. What Brian said is so true. Slowly. There are ways to do it. The first thing you need to do is talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't just do it. Don't just start doing it. You need to identify some people, specifically your drummers. You want to get your drummers on board first. And you want to talk about it. You want to hype people up. You want to explain to them why it's going to be awesome to use these things.
This is called casting vision.
Casting vision for them. And then you want to strategically figure out a good time to do it. What we always did is we brought the click part, just the metronome part, click, 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 brought that in first and just let the drummer have it. And then that kind of started...
no tracks.
No tracks, no music. That way if you get off, it's not a disaster.
Just turn it off.
You start doing that maybe on 1 or 2 songs. Okay? And then you start giving it to the band. And then so everyone's getting used to having the metronome, but the sound guy's not fiddling with... Because you got to understand that it's more for the sound guy as well. And so you don't want to throw it all in at the same time. So you get the band accustomed to the click. And then when you're ready and you feel like that's good, maybe pick one song. A weekend where you're going to do the click and you're going to add some tracks to it.
Yeah.
And then you just go for it. But you do this over months.
Yeah.
This is not like a one weekend you don't have clicks and the next weekend you have 5 click tracks.
Yeah.
You'll scare people. And it'll be weird for the congregation as well. Don't shock them.
Yeah.
Suddenly they show up, there's a 60-piece orchestra in the horn section and 2 guys on stage. Don't
ever do that.
Don't ever do that.
There's a rule about, how much you want coming from the tracks versus who's on stage.
Rikachu Pokemon says, I want to be more useful in my praise team by learning electric guitar and drums. I already play piano and acoustic guitar. Am I getting paranoid or is this normal? Dude, learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
I'm constantly learning new instruments.
Yeah.
You're not paranoid. Totally normal. You just love music. You love music. You love learning.
I have a friend who is a youth pastor in Oklahoma, the church I grew up in, actually. And he's a youth worship guy. And he has a goal of learning a new instrument every year.
That's awesome.
And he is a great musician.
That's awesome.
And that's got to be part of why.
Once you learn a couple, they all start making sense. Like, I started learning...
I forget what it was he told me he was trying to learn that. It was something
weird.
Something weird,
like
yeah.
flugelhorn or something.
I don't remember.
I started learning ukulele, and it dawned on me. It's just the top 4 strings of a guitar tuned up a 4th. Yeah. And I was like, oh. So now, when I play a D...
So your shapes are all the same.
Yeah, I'm playing a D, I know it's a G.
But you have to know what key.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's cool. Zach Smith says, thoughts on spontaneous worship moments?
First thought is, don't do it unless you are ultra prepared. Yeah. So basically, what I mean by that is like I feel like we talked about this last week. Maybe I was talking. I don't remember. So Bethel Church in California, they're known for their spontaneous worship stuff. They make albums of it actually. Yeah. And I have seen Bethel worship leaders say that leading of the Holy Spirit obviously is born of the Holy Spirit. But it doesn't happen unless they are ultra prepared for what they've planned for.
Yeah.
So you can't just go into a situation thinking, we're going to play this song and then wherever the Spirit leads us, we're going. No, like your band has to be so tight.
They prepare. They talk about it. And
if
we do this, if I do this, do this.
They say, hey, if we go somewhere here, you guys are going to know how to follow me because of how prepared we are.
Yeah.
So I would say approach what you do plan. So you're going to have to plan something. Right?
Yeah, right. You should.
So approach what it is that you do have planned with like the highest level of preparation and make that a habit. And then I think what you'll find eventually, now we're not like we don't do spontaneity much. Like,
a little. It's usually at the end of a song.
Right.
Or before a song.
So we have our set and like we go through it. Yeah. Now we will, like Fuller said, if everyone's pressed in, we'll keep singing a song. Yeah. And, but you're not gonna feel, you and your team especially won't feel comfortable in that situation unless you're prepared. That's my opinion. That's great. I don't speak from that as a person who has a lot of experience in that sort of thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us know the stream is good, guys. Appreciate that. Okay, good question from Alan Malunwa, I think, Jr. Can you expand on transitioning smoothly between songs?
Ooh,
How do you maintain the momentum of a set? Great question.
We need a whole series on transitions.
Yes, we actually, the project that we're working on right now is going to be talking about transitions in depth. I would say there's a couple things here. One, preparation, right?
You gotta plan it.
Don't just wing it. Hey, we're going to go from this song to this song. Practice what you're going to do. Maybe even arrange it. Like a lot of times we'll take, like, if songs are, first of all, try to get songs in the same key or complementary keys. Right. If you got 2 songs in C, that's a seamless transition.
Yeah.
If they're in the same tempo...
Let me demonstrate. My guitar's a little loud too.
That's in C, right?
Yes. And start. That's a transition.
Alright, so... in the same key, it gives you the ability to hold over the notes, create some... cymbal swells are always good. That low bass note always, and you're just kind of keeping that ambience going, and that might be a place where some spontaneous worship happens before you start the next song as well. A complementary key would be like a 5th up or a 4th up. If you're in the key of C and you end on the 4, which is an F, and the next song's in F and starts on the F.
Yeah, same with G.
Yeah,
it's a 5th. Yeah.
So if you got a song in C and you go to the key of E major, that's going to be a tough one. So try to pick keys that help the transitions. If you got songs in the same tempo, man, go from one song to the next.
Just sometimes some songs tracks don't even stop.
Yeah, they just go right into the next one. So, but all that you got to kind of pre-plan out. Don't let dead space happen.
Yeah, let's plug our own product here. Fuller.
Let's do it.
So we have 2 products that we built specifically for, well, not specifically, but we made them because they work for transitions. One is pads. So you can go to worshiptutorials.com/pads. It's just a like a swell, like a pad sound, like a swell. If you can do a volume swell, it's basically what you get. That kind of a sound. Sounds like this underneath you. So you can do anything. You can pray. You can talk. You can just let the pad go. You can also play any song in that key on top of the pad. So it's perfect.
Yeah, I noodle over them all the time.
Yeah, and then transitions are nice because if you have some sort of app or something that allow you to crossfade, we use Pro Presenter for that. You can switch keys and it just seamlessly flows. So pads help. Now, if you're talking transitions between like a song and like announcements, we have another product called Bumper Music, which is like a song without lyrics. And the pads and bumper music all come in every single key.
Every key. So
you can transition from out of a song into bumper music, out of bumper music back into pads, and then to a song.
Yeah.
And everything is seamless.
Yeah.
Dead space, like the worst is, now you see this everywhere. The worst is the guys playing, do I have one up here? I'm looking for a capo. The guy's playing a song, capo 4, song ends, everything's like total silence, worship leader's taking the capo off, looking at his guitar, everyone's kind of standing around like, and most churches that have done that have done it for years, and it's just normal. People are like,
that's terrible, don't do that.
But it is the most awkward thing, like do something. Have your piano player play something.
So also, worship leaders, I always plan when I'm taking the capo off.
Me too.
So like at the end of a song, if I'm leading a song, and I know like during the outro, especially if I have another guitar player, if I'm playing in G, I might actually bar that G and then hold that and take my capo off, put it where I need it while the band's swelling out, and then I'm ready to start the next song. Plan ahead when you're going to change those capos.
And also, in transitions, you have rare moments of the service where you can actually speak to the congregation.
Yeah.
Plan those as well. Make them very intentional, and that can be part of your transition.
Rob, is there a Kemper knockoff? Unfortunately, I think you get what you pay for.
Kemper knockoff? That's a strange question. I mean, a Helix does kind of the same thing. I mean, it's all model. There's a lot of modelers out there.
I think there's really no shortcut.
The Kemper's the only thing that you can take like any amp and replicate it.
Yeah.
It's like sucks the soul of the amp.
Now, I would say this. The best way to get great tone on a low budget is practice.
Yes.
Because if you can become a really good guitar player, you can get some good tone out of just about anything. Yeah. I have songs on television that use very crappy
Fuller's
gear.
a producer, by the way. He produces a lot of music that gets placed on TV and stuff.
So when I first started producing, I used Squier Stratocaster.
Yeah.
and into a pod.
Like the bean?
The bean pod. And
a lot of albums were made with that thing.
If you manipulate your fingers properly and you practice enough, you can get them sounding good.
So, you want to know a funny story?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so Lincoln Brewster is famous for using Line 6 like pods, right?
Yes.
And so one of his most famous things was his patch for the XT Live, which is like
I had that patch.
Generations back.
I used it for years.
Right?
Yeah.
And he recorded an album with a lot of it, right?
Yep.
And so there is a Kemper profile
of that patch?
His XT Live patch. So somebody took the Kemper, ran it into the pod,
That's
and
hilarious.
profiled it. And Brad and I played it. It sounds awesome.
I'm sure
And
it
Brad's
does.
like, we're using a $2,200 setup to play a patch that you can buy on a piece of gear that costs $105 on Reverb. So you can have great
That's
tone.
amazing.
You can have, if you know what you're doing and playing well.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is this: as guitar players, we at some point you have to stop chasing tone because
you just have to practice.
You can get lots of great sounds from lots of different gear.
Telling that to me is like constantly getting new guitars.
You need to check into like a 12-step clinic for buying guitars. Edward, great question.
Does that mean every step is a new guitar?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Until you get that final. What are the theological implications of bad for your coffee? Is it totally depraved or radically corrupted? I'm going with radically corrupted.
I think there's no hope. I think absolutely, totally depraved. Total depravity is where I'm going to land. Okay, you want to know? Okay, this is funny story time. Yeah. I used to work at a Mennonite Brethren church in Oklahoma, and the guy who made the coffee, his last name was DeVoe. So so this is important. He would make the coffee, and then for the decaf coffee, he would take the used coffee grounds and sprinkle a little bit of decaf coffee grinds on top and run it through again.
That's terrible.
And we called it the DeVoe decaf.
That's funny.
It was terrible.
That's funny.
He's a great guy. So if you're watching, I apologize.
Chris says, should a fairly small church of about 150 people use pads? First of all, 150 is not small.
No.
The average church size in America is 78. So your church is like double the average almost. And I would say everyone uses pads.
The first set of pads that we have available are a set of pads that I made, and it was like a 2-year process for me as I kept iteration after iteration.
Morphing, refining.
Yeah. And the reason I made them was because I was in a church of 35 people. And I wanted, in a lot of Sundays, it was me and another vocalist.
That's it.
And maybe we had a piano player who was pretty good.
Okay.
Right? But he played piano.
Yeah, like classical piano.
And so I wanted something else because our transitions needed help. And it was hard for me to play during transitions. And I wanted something just to make it sound a little bigger and help glue things together during transitions. So the first set of pads are the pads that I used for 2 years in that church every single weekend. They kind of sound a little different over time because I kept tweaking them. And then eventually I was like, I think more churches would benefit from this. So, so if you're in a church of 150, absolutely. If you're in a church of 25, absolutely. And you don't have to use them all the time.
No.
If you use them on every single song, every single weekend, they get a little tired. So some songs maybe you just want just an instrument and a vocalist, and other songs you want, something a little different.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I use them. You use them on pretty much everything. Let's see here. A couple more questions, and we're gonna start wrapping it up.
Yeah, we've been on for about 45 minutes.
Paul says, I'm just starting to introduce pads now. I had some pushback initially, but people are finally starting to see the value. Sweet, man.
I'd be interested what the pushback is.
Yeah, I think people. Change is always.
I know some of the common obstacles, but
I will say this: one piece of advice with using pads: keep them super low.
You don't want them to be like a prominently featured instrument.
Don't treat them as a keyboard. Treat them as like room noise. Just enough to where when they're gone you notice, but when they're there, it's like if they're too overpowering, that's where you'll get the pushback. Yeah. So for people,
and that's kind of weird too.
It is weird because hey, where's that coming from? You know,
there's an art too. We should do a series on that too, like sort of the nuances of using pads. Yeah. Like when is it too much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Game Rock Guri says how to go step by step in acoustic guitar. You got a whole course on.
I do.
Free.
So there's a beginner guitar lesson course, 100% free at worshiptutorials.com. Just go to the guitar lesson page and you'll see it. I don't remember how many lessons it is, but it goes from the very beginning, how to hold the guitar, what are the parts of the guitar called, learning chords, rhythm, and then it'll get you from having never played a guitar to playing a song.
No, that's good. This is an interesting question here. Would it be a good idea, it's from Andrew, would it be a good idea to speak before every song during a worship service?
Probably not every single song.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
The pastor's job is to speak. I think our jobs as worship leaders is to usher people into worship. I think if you do 4 songs and don't say anything, that's equally as bad. But I think there's a fine line.
So we kind of we try not to be formulaic, but this is kind of what we do. We welcome people. So when the first song starts, if nobody says, like, if somebody comes to your house and you just open the door and turn around and walk away, that's weird. Like, you want to say hi, welcome, we're glad you're here, let's stand and sing together, and that's all it has to be. But we usually will take there's some sort of a welcome. You could call it a call to worship, in the very beginning, and then we will usually take one moment of a service. Where if it's between a song, it's to set up a song, and it's scripted out where the worship leader is going to say something to the congregation to lead them in worship. And if you can use a scripture or if you can use like a personal reference, it doesn't need to be long. We call it spiritual direction.
Yeah,
I have a number of videos available at Worship Tutorials. We're talking about spiritual direction, but 45 seconds to a minute, and that's all the time you want, because you don't want to preach a message before or after the message. Never do that. Yeah. But if you can strategically build in time, and we write it in our service
plan it out,
planning center.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah.
If you
be strategic, be intentional,
and don't force it. You don't want to ramble. If you've got nothing to say, then just go into the song. Yeah.
Don't just repeat the words of the song. And
oh my gosh.
People get tired of that fast.
So there's a ton of questions, Brian, about the Helix and the pod and the amps and the pedals.
Gear stuff is
so people
popular.
It sounds like there's a lot of people trying to make decisions.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, just
between what Helix,
between anything,
Kemper,
right?
pedals,
like I think we overthink gear, right? Like, figure out what your budget is, what you can afford.
Fuller's a good guy to listen to because you don't go down gear rabbit holes.
No, I try to get what I need. I'll upgrade my gear if I really feel like I need an improvement. Mm-hmm. But most of what we're doing is basic, simple stuff. We overthink it as guitar players. Like, we are not professionally touring guitar players on the road with Kenny Chesney. Or whatever, you name it, or Justin Timberlake. Like, then, gear out, freak out on gear, right? But the reality is, when I think as a worship leader, you know what I love? Not carrying an amp every Sunday morning. Yes. Because when you leave your house in rehearsal, and you gotta carry a 80-pound amp, there are practical, when I pick you up to go to church, you got your Helix and your guitar.
That's pretty much it.
You plug in, 2-second setup, ready to go.
A ridiculous
and
amount
cameras,
of camera
tons
gear.
of cameras for the vlog. But I think at the end of the day, tone is important, but it's not the most important thing.
You can get great tone from a Helix or a Kemper. Another thing that I love doing is when I get to church, I plug it, whether I'm using a Helix or a Kemper, because I go either way. I plug it in.
It sounds just like it's supposed to.
It works.
Yeah.
Like, I don't plug it in, hit a chord, and it's nothing's, and I got 50 cables that could be bad.
If you ask the sound guy, hey, would you rather all our guitar players have direct line Helix or pods or amps? They're almost always going to say direct line.
So we're making the case for the modeler.
Yeah, because
you don't have to use a modeler.
Every time you use an amp, you got to put the mic in front of it. Mm-hmm. Every time you move that mic, it changes your tone. Your tone may be amazing, but if that mic is a little bit off, it's not going to sound the way it's supposed to. Yeah. These are all variables that I just like to eliminate because I already got enough stress in my life. I'm with you. I like to turn it on, plug it in, and it sounds exactly like it did in my headphones last night. So I think figure out what you can spend and get the most that you can for your money.
Yeah.
And then and always know this: whatever you buy today, you're gonna change it in a couple of years, anyways.
If you go Helix, Kemper, Firehawk, Pod HD 500X, they all can sound great.
Yeah.
You just have to. Another thing is like you've got to learn how to use the thing that you have.
Yeah.
So I had a Pod HD500X for years, and at the end of me owning it and toward the beginning, my tone was 200% better because Nick Rice showed me how to use it. Basically, like that guy could get tone out of anything. So.
Yeah, Nick Rice is a great guitar player.
Yes, he is.
Gande says, "Why is it so difficult to hold the key of C?"
I don't know.
I've never found it difficult.
We've got a keyboard.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that question is. This is a great question as we kind of start to wrap it up. How did you do that?
That's a C.
How to introduce newer songs to an older generation?
Ooh.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Start with Vision.
Vision
talked about
is
that before.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most effective ways to introduce a new song is to tell a story that ties into it, that's personal.
If people can connect to the song, they will connect to the song.
If you have a story, maybe you got kids, my kids do things all the time, and I'm always like, oh, I could use that to set that song up. Because there are certain things kids do that really illustrate God's love for us and us for Him. And so if something happens that I can tie into a song, I'll say, hey, I was at Taco Bell the other day with my son, and he said this, and then I think about this song. And so when you can, especially for the older generation, give them something meaning. Mm-hmm. They want to know what's meaningful. So don't just talk, hey, the song is called Reckless Love, or what, Perfect Love, or whatever it is. Set it up with a story.
Let's not get into that here.
Let's set it up with a story. So will I.
Let's not get into that either.
If you set it up with a story, and then the other thing is this. If you're doing a new song and it's rambunctious, and you have an older crowd, maybe start with an acoustic version of it.
Oh, you mean it's like a lot of energy?
Yeah, like don't go full on jumping around on stage and stuff, because that will stinking scare people. So
if they're not used to it. Yeah.
Cool. So we are, man, it's been fun hanging out with you guys today.
About an hour. Yeah. This is
good.
It's
been about an hour.
Sadly, these Tuesday live, we've done 2.
Yeah.
It's like we've done 50.
This guy said Worship Leader Tuesday.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to keep this up forever. Fuller's going. When's your sabbatical over, Fuller?
2 weeks. Yeah.
So maybe next Tuesday.
We'll do this again next Tuesday for sure.
Live again next week.
So we'll see you guys. Keep your questions coming.
But probably not the week after because he'll be at work.
Yeah,
I'll be here. Maybe I can go live by myself.
We might squeeze some stuff in on Friday as well. So thank you guys for joining us and hanging out with us. Shoot Brad comments. Tell him you missed him.
Yeah. Last week when we ended, it was super awkward.
Yes.
Because when we pushed the end button, and
there was a few seconds,
and YouTube popped up and said your video is over, whatever it does. There's like 10 more seconds of us like, yeah, that was. What'd you think about that? Yeah. We didn't say anything, but so we're gonna try and make this one a little better. We're gonna play out. How about that? Where's the end button? Okay, so here's the stop button. Now let's play a little something. You want the same thing we did earlier?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So,
all right, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Now the problem is here, Fuller.